Good afternoon, hello, my name is Daniel and this is a 3T Exploro in the RaceMax spec. So this is 3T's racing gravel bike, aero gravel bike. And this video is all about my first impressions of it. Now 3T have sent me this bike out to do some testing on. I haven't been told to say anything specifically. I'm not trying to get sponsored. I'm not going to read the brochure to you. I'm just going to share my impressions of this bike. I've been riding bikes for many years now. I've ridden gravel for about a year or so. So I feel like I've got a bit of education experience to be able to speak with, and yeah, hope you enjoy. And if you're looking for one of these, I'm hoping this video will be helpful in you making your decision. So this is, as I said, the 3T Exploro RaceMax. It is the top of the range in the range. This is supposed to be the ultimate gravel race bike. Now looking at it, it certainly says I'm a race bike, doesn't it? It looks like a crit bike with off-road tyres on. But let's start from the frame and work the way out. So the frame set, you'll notice it's got deep tubes, cut out rear seat stay. That's all with aero in mind. The deep tubes on down here are supposed to make it more aero when there are bottles in the frame, and everybody rides with bottles in the frame, a lot. The cutout in the rear seat stay again is with aerodynamics in mind. You don't see that very commonly at all on gravel bikes, and my impression of that is, don't know, is it going to be a pain to clean? Is mud going to get clogged up in there? I have ridden this bike, I'm going to cover it in a separate video, but the answer is no, it doesn't get clogged up. There's plenty of clearance, but it just looks a little bit different, doesn't it? Other things on the frame, there are bolts on the top tube for a top tube food storage bag. There are not any bolts on the forks, but there are bolts under the bottom bracket for a third bottle mount or tool storage mount or whatever you want to use. Now, with regard to mudguard mounts, there aren't any mounts for solid mudguards, so if you're looking to do that, then you're not able to. But I think for a gravel race bike, that's not a bad setup. I rave on about, because I ride a Canyon Grizzle for my own gravel bike, the mounts on the forks. I love that they're there, but I've never used them. I just think it looks like it's a more rugged, adventure bike. This is, it's more a race bike than it is an adventure bike, so I don't think that's a problem. But I think that's plenty of options for bottles. There is one on the seat stay as well there, but obviously I've not put on the seat tube, sorry. What else is interesting about the frame? Well, it is not fully integrated and there is not an integrated cockpit, but I think that is a benefit. Integrated cockpits look nice, but to actually work on, to actually use, sometimes they can be a pain. Just little things like, I've been out for a ride on this, so I've put my Garmin mount on it. I don't want to have to go and buy a specific Garmin mount to put on an integrated cockpit. I like being able to put lights on here and clip-on bars, please don't strike me down. And it just makes it a bit more usable. As well as that, if you're going to be racing a bike like this, you need to make it fit you and get in the most aero position that you can, and being able to change the stem really easily is a big benefit to that. If you've got an integrated cockpit and it's not putting you in the right position, then it's not very good at all, or you're spending big money to try and change the position. Talking about money, in this exact spec here retails at £5,500. Now, what do I think about that? It's a lot of money, but it is a lot of bike, and bikes are a lot of money nowadays, so it's so subjective, it's almost not worth me commenting on. Frame-wise, while we're on there, let's talk about clearance. The currently has Pirelli Cinturato, I probably said those wrong, but they're 40mm tyres. The frame is rated to, and 3T do this slightly differently, they rate their bikes to the widths that the tyres actually measure, which is sensible, because when you buy tyres, they're very often measured differently to what they say on the side, depending on what wheels you've got on and so on. So this will take up to 61mm actually measured tyres. I think that's with 650B wheels though. I think it's sort of mid-40s with 700C wheels, which these are, and these are 40s. And to be honest, I think there's plenty of clearance, but I wouldn't want to go much bigger than 45 or so, I don't think, but you have to check the tech specs to be absolutely sure. I think you can get a bigger rear tyre in when you run it one by, because the front mech sits there. Onto the wheel set. Now these are Fulcrum Rapid Red 900s. Now I think these are absolutely fine for gravel, but they're not a top of the range wheel set. I think if I was looking for a race bike for gravel, I'd probably want something a little bit deeper, perhaps carbon fibre, something that is a bit lighter perhaps. And I'd want to think that from getting a good spec frame, which this is, I want a good spec wheels, but maybe these are sold with these bikes because most people will change the wheels if they're racing. I don't know, but that's just my thoughts about them. I've only ridden them once and they ride absolutely fine. They're set up clincher at the minute just because of the nature in which this bike is used. It is it's a fleet bike, isn't it? So they don't really faffing around with tubeless. Onto the group set. SRAM Rival 2x 4633 chain set and a 1036 rear cassette. When I first read the specs of this bike, I thought, that's not the best group set for something like this. I want a 1x, I want a massive cassette on the back. But it's not actually that bad. The range is bigger. That 33 on the inner with a 36 rear cassette is obviously smaller than a 1-to-1 ratio, so you're going to be able to climb up some super steep climbs climbs, and then a 4610 is a big gear, and there's a good spread in between. With you having the 2x, the changes between gears are smaller, aren't they? So you do have more options. So I think I'm coming around to the idea, and I'm also coming around to it because if you're swapping wheels around, or perhaps using it on as a winter road bike as well, or even a road bike, it's a bit easier to swap around rather than having a big Explorer rear mech that takes up to a 44 tooth cassette and messing around with chain links and all that sort of stuff. So I'm coming around to it, but I don't know if I'm fully sold on it. I think some of the price that the bike is, some of that is because it is a 2x group set. Of course, you're having a front mech that's several £100s on there. So maybe I'd go for a 1x and save a little bit of money. I don't know. Onto the crankset, it's a 172.5mm crank. This is a large frame. It is a little bit too small for me, in honesty. It's probably a little bit short reach wise. I managed to get the saddle height near enough exactly where I wanted it. It is just over the maximum insertion length, so I wouldn't want to use it long term, but it was okay for a ride. And then the extra large version comes with 175mm cranks. I know I've put road pedals on there, don't hate me, it's just what I had kicking around at the time. I know I started in the cockpit earlier, let's go back to the cockpit. 42mm bars, I think that's okay, but we all know that if you're racing, narrow is faster in most cases. I know this is a gravel bike, so it's not the be-all and end-all, but I would like to see 40s on there if possible. It's just my own personal perspective. The smaller bikes, the smalls and the mediums do come with 40s, or I think the small comes with, you have to check it, see what I mean? But okay, but again, maybe it was going to be a bit narrower. And yeah, in a nutshell, that is the 3.2 Exploro RaceMax. Now, I'm going to do some riding on this and do some separate videos on it, and I do have the lower spec version as well, which I'll probably do a separate video on, but they're my impressions. But if you've got one of these, let me know what you think down below. I certainly am enjoying it, and I like the look of it, and yeah, time to do some testing, so thanks for watching.